Senator Portman, you have a meeting with Homeland Security and the FBI later today. Any idea what will be discussed regarding the Paris attacks and the threats here at home?
Bob, we're going to ask them specifically about the refugees coming from Syria and whether they've been vetted and can be vetted. We had a hearing in my Homeland Security Committee last month where I was told by the FBI Director, Homeland Security Secretary, and others that we did not have the intelligence to be able to properly vet these people. So that's one of my deep concerns. I'm continuing to ask that question because we got to be sure that our country is safe. Of course, we want to welcome refugees, but it's only sensible that we vet them, know who they are, and why they're coming.
So you're saying that you don't think Syrian refugees should be admitted right now under the current vetting process?
I think we should immediately stop the program until we figure out whether we have the ability to be able to vet them properly. I'm convinced from the hearing we had last month that we do not have the intelligence on the ground to be able to properly vet these people. Until we have that, I think it's dangerous, and it's not something that we should move forward with.
What's your reaction, Senator, to the President's comments yesterday that those who halt the refugee program are, quote, scared of widows and orphans, and that the rhetoric feeds into the type of anti-Muslim sentiment that the groups like ISIS are using for recruitment?
Well, nobody's afraid of refugees who are truly refugees. In fact, we're the most generous country in the world in terms of taking refugees. We should continue to do that. I don't think it's fair to say that the United States is not a generous country. We take over 70,000 refugees a year. The administration would like to take it up to 100,000 a year. But let's be sure they're actually refugees that are fleeing persecution and not infiltrated with ISIS or other radical Islamic people who are getting into the refugee flow, and that's all we're saying. So I think that's not much to ask for, and I don't think it's something that right now we have the ability to do. So that's my concern. We have to stop the program until we have the ability to know that these people are not terrorists and that in fact we know that they are indeed refugees.
How concerned are you, sir, right now in light of the Paris attacks and the Russian plane bombing of an ISIS strike here in the U.S.? And what more do you think the United States should be doing to combat ISIS?
Well, Bob, I think it's a huge concern and has been, unfortunately for several years now. We know that these people are here in this country. We know that in Columbus, Ohio, for instance, there was a foreign fighter who came back to Columbus and he was arrested because he had plans to conduct terrorist activities in central Ohio. So this is something that we know is a problem. I was told recently by administration officials that there are 5,000 foreign fighters who are in the fight who come from countries that have a visa waiver program with us. In other words, they don't need to have a visa to come into the United States. These are, for instance, European countries. So this is a real problem. We have homegrown terrorism. We have people who are foreign fighters who can get into this country who are not from here through a visa waiver program. We have the potential for people coming in posing as refugees. We need to tighten it all up. And then, of course, we need to take the fight to them. As long as they have this platform to attack, which is the parts of Syria and Iraq now that ISIS have taken over, the threat will be greater to us. We now know that these attacks in Paris were conducted by terrorists who were directed by ISIS in Syria. And so we do need to take the fight to them. We also need to ensure that we are dealing with the problems in Syria so that we don't have the need for more refugees to come to the United States or other countries. 4 million people have left that country, in part because of the lack of U.S. leadership, our inability to pull the rest of the countries of the world together and deal with that crisis. That has created the issue of the refugee and the concerns that all of us have. So I think we need to be more aggressive at home, Bob. I think we also need to be more aggressive to ensure we're providing a safe haven and a no-fly zone for people in Syria so they don't have to leave that country. And I think we need to take the fight to ISIS.
All right, one last question. Is it time in terms of taking that fight to ISIS, is it time to have U.S. troops on the ground there? More of them anyway.
Well, I think the president's already committed some troops to the ground there, as you know. He recently committed another 50 special forces. I think we need to have spotters on the ground to know that our strikes are being effective. But mostly I think what we need to do right now is two things. One, increase the airstrikes. We have not been using the airstrikes nearly as effectively as we should. Interestingly, this week we provided the French with the intelligence to have effective strikes in Syria. We had the intelligence. Why weren't we using it ourselves? We had not been striking these same targets. And then second, we need to bring the countries of the region and our NATO allies and others together into this fight. So the Sunni countries in the neighborhood who care a lot about that, they should be more engaged and involved. This is Turkey, Saudi Arabia, the Emirates, Jordan, and then our NATO allies. We've seen France take a stronger leadership role than the United States of America. It's time for us to take a stronger leadership role, but bringing these other countries with us.
Senator, thanks so much for talking with us. We appreciate it.
Thank you, Bob. Appreciate it.